What's going on today, guys? Welcome to the channel. As you guys know, I review a lot of watches from AliExpress on this channel. And as we've seen with these watches, they're pretty much all loaded with specs, but the quality control, the finishing, they're kind of a little bit of a toss-up unless you're spending $200 to $300. Today, I have a watch to show you guys that you may not have heard of, but it has incredible finishing, incredible quality control. It's absolutely loaded with specs, and it's at a price that I'm pretty sure you guys are gonna like. Before we get started, consider hitting that subscribe button if you enjoy the content. If you don't, that's okay too. I still appreciate you watching this video. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead, dive down, and get into the review. Alright, guys, so you may not recognize this logo, but this is a Sig Flamma. So you have that cardboard box, and then inside you get a wooden box. You can see the Sig Flamma logo engraved, and there it is. So this watch is paying homage to the Christopher Ward Trident, and I'll pull up a picture of that so you can see what it looks like. So yeah, this is very similar. Really good looking watch. I really like this red with the black dial colorway. It's actually one of my favorite colorways. I've been meaning to get my hands on a watch like this. I did have the Pagani Black Bay homage on the channel, and that had a similar colorway, but I like how they did this one a little bit better. We'll start off with dimensions. So you have a 42 millimeter case diameter. You have 13 millimeters of thickness. You have 48 millimeters lug to lug, but this does have male end links, so it does protrude out to 53 millimeters at the ends of both of these both of these male end links. And you have a 22 millimeter lug width. This thing has all 316L stainless steel on the case, the bracelet, the crown, the case back, the bezel. Everything is 316L stainless steel. It has a top hat sapphire crystal with anti-reflective coating, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to see that, but it does have some, yeah, you can see it there. It does have some anti-reflective coating on there. You have a 120 click unidirectional rotating bezel, 200 meters of water resistance, which is aided by the screw down crown and the screw down case back. You have solid links and solid end links on the bracelet. You have a milled clasp and a screw down case back covering the NH35 movement that's inside. Oh, also you have an aluminum bezel insert, which definitely keeps to that vintage aesthetic they're looking for with this one. The price of this watch is $143. There are a couple different sites that you can buy this, or a couple different stores that you can buy this from on AliExpress. I will leave a link down in the description for the store that I bought it from, and that is the cheapest one that you can get it for. Also, this does come in another color variant. So you have the black bezel with the red, the red bezel with the black dial. You also have a blue bezel with the blue dial, and it also has the faux patina on the indices and the hands. The hands are baton style hands, and they're similar to what you see on an Oyster Perpetual. So it looks like they're kind of going for a little bit of a mix with the Christopher Ward and Oyster Perpetual, because the Christopher Ward has very unique hands, and they definitely can't be mistaken for anything else. So they went with Oyster Perpetual hands on this, and I think it looks pretty good. The bezel, like I said, the bezel insert is aluminum, and this is a 120 click unidirectional bezel, and it has really nice action, easy to turn. It's a little harder to turn with gloves on, but trust me, very easy to turn. Although my first gripe, and it's hard to tell here because it does sort of look like it's lining up, but it actually isn't. And yeah, you can see it more right there. It is slightly off to the left, and I can't fix this. I tried thinking maybe I went one too far, but you'll see here's one behind, and you can see it's a little off to the right, and then one more, a little off to the left, and it's got no play. There's absolutely no play in this bezel. So downside to that is I can't actually line it up properly. But yeah, the other models that I've seen reviews of, didn't have this problem, so I guess I just got a dud, but hopefully you won't have that same problem if you do choose to order this. But it's really not too bad. It doesn't really bother me, but some of you that's going to be a huge con. So, and I certainly don't like to see it. So moving on to the case shape and finishing. So the case shape is just like the Christopher Ward, very similar. And it has some unique finishing to it, which I really like. You can see on the tops of the lugs here, you have a brushed finish. Really, really nice finish too. This watch is finished really well. And it moves down to a polished chamfered edge. And then you can see transitions back into a brushed finish in the center here. And then back down to a polished finish on the bottom. So really nice. This just plays with the light so well, and it really looks elegant on your wrist. I'm telling you, all that level of detail really makes a huge difference when you're looking at this in person. It definitely adds to the character of this watch and just really makes it look great. So the bracelet and clasp, you have fully 316L stainless steel bracelet, as I mentioned, and you have solid end links, as I also mentioned, solid links. And this is a 22mm bracelet, and it tapers down to 18 at the clasp. And you have that beautiful milled clasp, which is definitely done pretty well. I don't have too many complaints about this clasp, except for one, which I'll get into in just a second. But yeah, really excellent finishing to this bracelet. It's a very, very high quality bracelet. You don't feel any sharp edges on it at all. The fit to the case is nearly perfect. There is the ever so slightest bit of play there, but it's really hard to notice. And you can see it's pretty much flush. There's a tiny, tiny bit of a lip there, but very, very hard to notice that. And yeah, it's just finished really well. And I mean, for the price, the finishing on this watch is absolutely unbelievable. You're not going to find finishing like this for less than $200. And that's only from AliExpress. If you look outside of AliExpress, you're not going to find finishing like this unless you're spending upwards of $500. So, yeah, just really impressive. So the clasp, you have a fully milled clasp, and you have a 2-button push. You have 3 micro adjustments. I would have liked to see 4 or 5. That's definitely going to be one of my cons. And yeah, it's just, I don't know why so many companies do this. Just 2 or 3 micro adjustments is not enough. You need to have 4 or 5 to get that perfect fit. Fortunately, I was able to get a perfect fit with this anyway, but some of you might struggle with that. So the other problem that I have with this clasp is this diver's extension. I really don't like these diver's extensions. They're pressed, they're cheap, they add rattle to the bracelet or to the clasp, which wouldn't be there if it didn't have this diver's extension. And there's really, I don't see the use for it. I don't see very many people going diving with this watch, if anyone. So to have the diver's extension just doesn't really make sense. And if you're gonna do it, then at least do it right. Make it a milled diver's extension. But that's definitely a problem that I have with this. But definitely not a deal breaker, but certainly worth mentioning. And you have a nice signed clasp there. You can see the Sieg Flamma logo, which I like that Sieg Flamma logo. I'm not really sure what it's supposed to be, but I think it looks pretty nice. The dial is a flat black dial. You have all applied indices, printed text, and you have an old radium style lume. Now, one of my gripes, the text. I don't like the Sieg Flamma text there. I would have just liked to see their logo. That would have been definitely much more aesthetically pleasing, and I think it would have matched better with the fact that the clasp and the crown are both signed with that logo. So I know they're going for a vintage look, but I think that logo would have looked fine. And I also would have liked to see them match the color. I would have liked to see that old radium color on there, so that way it would match with the indices, and I would have liked to see them match it with the automatic 200 meters down here as well. I would have liked to see all of that in that yellowish vintage old radium style text. So Yeah, that's definitely a gripe that I have. Also, that date wheel is not matched and it just looks off. It would have looked so much better if they had matched that to the dial. It would have just completed the look of this dial. I think if they would have made those two changes, had that date wheel color matched and had at least the text matched to the indices, that would have looked so much better. I forgot to mention, you also have baton style indices. You have the double baton at the 12, a half baton at the 3, and a single baton at the 6 and the 9, and then you have circular indices on all the rest. But it is a really good looking dial. Of course, not much originality here, or not any originality here, but it does look really good. It's very well executed. Also, something to mention, between the crystal and the bezel, you have this really nice polished ring, which just looks excellent and breaks it up really nicely between that crystal and bezel, and just adds to, it's just another level of light play that this watch just does a really nice job playing with the light. So the movement in this watch is the Seiko NH35. We've talked about this movement a lot on this channel because I've reviewed a lot of watches that have this movement. It's fantastic, really great, very accurate, it's very reliable, workhorse, proven, tested, great movement. And this one is running at around plus 8, plus 9 seconds per day, which is totally fine. As long as you're getting these within the plus or minus 10 seconds per day, I think you're in good shape. It's a perfectly reasonable accuracy level for a watch in this price point. So nothing bad to say about the movement. I'm not going to talk too much about it because you've already heard me talk about it in previous videos. The Lume, you have old radium style Lume, and let's go ahead and take a look at this. And there we go. Very bright Lume. I think they did a really good job with this old radium. I think they're using C3 Superluminova, and of course because you have the old radium, it's going to make that a little duller. It's not going to be as bright as it normally would be, but I think they did a really good job. It's very bright and it lasts for a long period of time. This stands up pretty well to some other really well loomed watches in my collection, so I think you're going to be happy with this. There it is on my 7.5-inch wrist, and it just fits beautifully. And even with those male end links, you'll see the curvature is very nice on those. They curve down really nicely, and you can even fit this watch on 6.5-inch wrists, maybe even a little smaller. Maybe if your wrist is that small, you probably don't want to go for a 42mm case size in the first place, but yeah, it really wears well, and I don't think the male end links really are a problem with this watch because of the way they curve down. But yeah, sits beautifully on wrist. 13.5mm thickness is just really nice. Or I'm sorry, 13mm thickness, really nice. Very comfortable. You can wear this one all day and not feel like taking it off. So yeah, really great. Now one last thing that I forgot to mention. On the case pack here, you have this engraved logo, and you got some text around the outside as well. So the logo is not finished very well. It's very sharp, and you'll notice there's another review that mentions the same thing. If you watch the Watcher's review, and I highly recommend that you watch as many reviews on this as you can. I believe there's only 2 or 3 reviews out there, but definitely check those out. I recommend checking out the Watcher's video and Watch the Time. Both their videos are great. But yeah, it's very sharp, and you definitely feel it if you're running your finger over it. Although you don't feel it when you have it on wrist. It's really not a big deal once it's on wrist, but it's definitely something to mention. So keep that in mind. I did use some Scotch-Brite and I took it down a little bit. I could actually do it a little bit more, but it really doesn't bother me. So overall impressions, guys, I'm honestly blown away with everything they're offering with this watch at such a ridiculously affordable price. When it comes down to sheer bang for buck, this watch destroys its competition. You won't find another watch on AliExpress with the level of detail and quality of finishing that this watch has for less than $200. I'm shocked that more people haven't heard of the Sieg Flamme and that more reviewers haven't jumped at the chance to review this watch. Overall, I think it's an unbeatable value, and if you're looking for that Christopher Ward look, but at a much more affordable price, this is the one for you. So comment down below, guys. Let me know what you think of this one. Is there something better out there for a similar or lesser price? Let me know. But that's going to wrap up the review, guys. So remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Hit the bell icon to be notified when I release a new video. But thank you so much for watching, guys. And remember to keep watching out.